Hello everyone, good evening. I hope all of you are having a good evening. Quickly tell me if I'm visible and audible to all of you, and then we can dive right into this analysis. Hi Aditi, Adhira, Vishal, Sri Nitya, Papiya. Hello everyone. Okay, I see thumbs up. So I believe you can see me and hear me. So let's get started. So I'll answer your very first question right in the beginning. This is the paper code that we will be discussing. So I think you can all see it on your screen. Okay, but don't worry. This is not the only paper code we will be discussing. We have another session tomorrow. So make sure you like and make sure you subscribe so that you can get all the updates. We will do the analysis for the other set tomorrow. And today, this is the paper that we are discussing. Okay, so first of all, I'd like to know from all of you, how was your English exam? So I know I've seen the papers, I've heard everything. So quickly tell me, how was it for you? How do you feel? I want to hear from all of you. If you thought it was too ambiguous, if you thought it was too confusing, if there were questions out of the syllabus, what did you think? Not good, confusing. Some of it went well for Charvi. Okay. So it was terrible for some of you, it was good for some of you. That's okay. See, this happens. Don't worry. So if it went badly for you, we will try to figure out where you got stuck. And if it was good, then great. I'm very happy for you. But don't worry, it was confusing. It was a bit ambiguous. You know, everyone did get confused. So you don't have to feel very bad if it didn't go that well for you, okay? But the good news is all of you got full marks for the first passage. Okay, so there's a silver lining everywhere. So when something a little bad happens, something good also happens. So are you happy about that? Let me know in the comments quickly. And also, while I'm asking this question, let me also ask if you want to go through the RC for this particular set. Because this RC did not get scrapped, this was not against the guidelines, but you still get full marks for it. So if you want to go through the answers for this particular RC, we can do that. But maybe we can do that at the end, okay? Alright, and the other set you're still asking me. So Rakshita, we will be discussing that tomorrow. We will be discussing it tomorrow. But you can also go through this session to sort of understand the variety of questions that can come. And even if something slightly out of syllabus comes in your exam, we can see how you can apply your prior knowledge to answer those questions, okay? So let's get started. You already know all of this and you're all getting full marks for the first RC, so I'm very happy for you. And we can just skip through these questions for now and then we can maybe come back to them at the end. Because there are a lot of you who attempted the other set and also we are getting full marks for this anyway. But this was a nice passage. We can come back to it at the end if we have time, okay? And it'll just be good for your general understanding where you went wrong, what you did correctly. Okay, so then we have, there we go. This is where we'll start. Okay, so you all remember the second passage from your exam, correct? And here's the first question. Study the following statements. A says roads are killers for animals. B, both birds and mammals are killed on roads. And C, species most killed are necessarily the endangered ones. So here we know off the bat that we can eliminate option C because when we discussed the passage, what did it say? Did it say species most killed are necessarily the endangered ones when you read the passage? No, there were some species that were killed that were not endangered, which is where the problem came in, that, you know, those species were not being saved, they were not in the list of the species that were at threat. So we can eliminate option C. Then so we have A and B as the correct options here, which makes C the right answer. Okay? All right? Very good. Most of you said C. Great. Okay, next. Study the following statements. Roads have covered 50% of land in Europe. Road traffic causes a great risk to wildlife. Some species can survive all kinds of traffic on roads. So here, we don't have any evidence from the passage that A is correct. It said 50% in a different context. It was saying that 50% of Europe is a certain distance close to a road or a pavement. I think it was 1.5 kilometers or something, correct? So A is not correct. Statement A is correct. Okay, I'm so sorry. Roads have covered 50% of land in Europe. So 1.5 kilometers from the 50% of Europe is at a distance of 1.5 kilometers or something. That was the number from roads, okay? So we know A is correct. B is also correct according to the passage. Road traffic causes a great risk to wildlife. That was essentially what the entire passage was about. And so C is saying some species can survive all kinds of traffic on roads. That's not true. You know, so if any kind of a species will come on the road, there is a risk that they will get killed by traffic. So C is clearly incorrect. So that brings us to B being the correct answer. B is correct and C is false. Okay? No confusion there. Ridhima is asking, why can't it be B? B is the correct answer. Most of you got it. Okay? So even though A, we have some evidence about A in the passage, it's not reflecting in the options. So, alright, sorted. Yeah, most of you said B. Great. Moving on. Read the passage below and answer the questions. Complete the statements that follow by choosing the most appropriate options out of the given ones. So we need to find the most appropriate options out of the given ones. So A is, while planning roads, we should see which species to protect. That sounds correct. That's what the passage was trying to tell us. That, you know, we need to see which animals are, the population of each kind of species, where they live, what the population density is, and how much at risk they are. So A seems to be right. B, we are doing a lot to protect those most at risk. That is what the passage was saying we are not doing. Because, you know, the animals that were most likely to be killed the most in road accidents were not in the list of the animals that were endangered, right? So B doesn't seem to be correct. C says 50% of Europe is covered only with roads. That's also incorrect. And D says small animals, even with low population density, are most at risk. That's not true. While small animals with high population densities are at risk, it doesn't say that the ones with low populations are most at risk, correct? High are most at risk. So from all of these options, we can say that A seems to be the most likely option. A lot of you are asking why not C. So if you read the passage properly, like I was saying before, that it said that 50% of Europe has proximity to roads. Okay, it said that 50% of Europe is somewhere close to a road or a pavement, correct? I don't remember the exact figure, I think it was 1.5 kilometers, but it said 50% of Europe had a proximity to roads. It didn't say that 50% of Europe was covered in roads. That is a slight difference. And in any case, while you see the most appropriate option over here seems to be A, because it says while planning roads, we should see which species to protect. That is the essence of the passage that was given to you. The entire study was done to see how many animals die in road kills and how we can protect them, right? So that from that logic, we can deduce that A seems to be the most correct option. All right? Okay. Next, read the passage below and answer the questions or complete the statements. Okay, again, just have to answer choose the most appropriate options. So here A says more mammals than birds are killed on the roads. B says animals generally keep away from roads. C says number of road kills depends upon the population density of small animals. And D, animals that come out only at night are saved. So from this we can see that no, more mammals and birds are not killed on roads. B says animals generally keep away from roads. That's not true. They come on the roads and that's why they end up dying. D says animals that come out only at night are safe. That was not given in the passage, and logically speaking also that cannot be true. C says number of road kills depends upon the population density of small animals, and this was clearly given in the passage that smaller animals with higher density in that area tend to die more on the roads. So here C is a correct answer. Okay, great. Lot of you said C. Good job. Vishal is saying A. That was not said anywhere in the passage, right, Vishal? Okay. Here, so this is where the survey ranked the roadkill rate of birds and mammals. The finding puts grouse and squirrel at great risk. Okay, so what is a grouse? Grouse is a bird, okay, and squirrel is a small animal. So while the passage talks about the survey ranks and the roadkill rate, okay, so it also tells us the finding of the survey. So there are two things that are essentially discussed in the passage. What does the passage say? That there was a survey that was conducted for so and so reason because there are animals that are dying on the road, and then it also told us the findings of the survey. So we have these two sentences. The survey ranked the roadkill rate of birds and mammals. Then we have another sentence that says the finding puts grouse and squirrel at great risk. So from this we can say that the option A seems to be an assertion that the survey ranked the roadkill rate of birds and animals. This is something that is specifically being said. And B is the finding puts grouse and squirrel at great risk. So whatever the survey conducted, our findings, our result was that grouse and squirrels are at great risk. So A becomes our assertion and B becomes the response, which makes A the correct answer. Okay, so and now Chevy, do you understand why your previous answer was incorrect? Because grouse is a bird, squirrel is a mammal, both are at great risk, so we cannot say one is at a greater risk than the other. Okay, this question clarified your previous doubt as well. Okay, great. Most of you got A, and that is the correct answer. Now, hazel grouse and ground squirrel are classified as species of least concern. Okay, this statement is what out of these options? So as we saw in the passage and in the previous question as well, that hazel grouse and squirrel are at risk, right? They're both at risk for dying on roads, but they are not in the list of endangered species. So not a lot is being done to protect them, even though they die the most. So this makes this statement, it's not a logical conclusion. If they are at risk, then they should not be of least concern, correct? So it's not a logical conclusion. It's not at all a piece of good news. Is it ironical? Yes, it is ironical. What does it mean to be ironical? It's the opposite of what it should be. Okay? So it's definitely not a pleasant surprise, Animals dying is never a pleasant surprise. So ironical is our correct answer in this case. Very straightforward. Great. All of you got C. Okay, now the title of the study should be, the entire passage was about what? Animals dying on the road. So the most appropriate title out of all these options that we have should be road kills, correct? So while it briefly touched upon the other options that we have, the entire essence of the passage, the entire point of the passage was to talk about animals dying on the road. So B is our correct answer. Great job, everyone. Okay, now what is the purpose of the study? The purpose of the study, how to prevent road kills, to see who is more at risk on the roads, how to plan better roads, to estimate the number of road accident victims. So out of all of these, the purpose of the study was to find which animals are dying the most because of road accidents, right? So that brings us to option B, to see who is more at risk on the roads. Okay, so again, while the passage could have briefly touched upon the other options, the main purpose of the study was to find out which animals are more at risk. So that brings us to B as the correct answer. Okay. Fire liquidators. It did not give us a ton of solutions to the problem, correct? It mostly talked about the study and its findings. It did not go into the solutions. How can you prevent roadkill? That's why A cannot be our answer. B has to be our answer. Okay? Alright, so we quickly went through the reading comprehension passage and all of you seem to give me the correct answer, so no issues there. Some minor confusions with the 50% of Europe road situation, but if you read the sentence properly, you can tell the difference and you need to find the most appropriate answer. So even if you see that there are two possibly correct answers, what you're going to try to do is find the most correct answer. Okay? Now coming to grammar. Here we go. Here's our first question. I don't see why you blank borrow his cycle. You have one of your own. So what is this sentence trying to say? It's basically trying to say you have one of your own cycle, so there's no need for you to borrow his cycle. So out of all these options, even if we individually plug them in, we can get to the correct answer. I don't see why you should borrow his cycle. You have one of your own. Sounds correct? Sounds correct to me. I don't see why you could borrow his cycle. No, this is not talking about ability, and could usually talks about a possibility or an ability. So that's out of the question. C, may. I don't see why you may borrow his cycle. Again, doesn't sound right, and D, might also doesn't sound right because we're not talking about possibilities. We are saying there's no, I don't see why you need to borrow his cycle. So I don't see why you should borrow his cycle. Why would you do something that you don't need to do? So A is our correct answer, which all of you got. Great job. Okay, so my family blank in Chennai for 5 years now. Okay, here we are talking about my family and it has something to do with living in Chennai for 5 years now. So it has been a particular amount of time and they continue to live in Chennai. So which is our most appropriate option here? Has been living. Okay, for 5 years, my family has been living in Chennai and they're continuing to live in Chennai, okay? So B is our correct answer, no confusion there. So why is I saw A there, A cannot be our correct answer because the family is still living in Chennai, it's continuing to live in Chennai. So the action that had started is still ongoing. So we cannot say has lived, has been living. Okay? Alright, great job. Next, blank the letter arrive in your absence. Would you like me to forward it to you? Now here we have a confusion. This seems to be a conditional sentence, which was not in your syllabus. But the answer over here is a modal. Modal was in your syllabus. So when we have an issue like this, we can apply the knowledge of what we already know. Okay, so in this case, blank the letter arrive in your absence. Would you like me to forward it to you? So here, when we look at the options, we might think, oh, if looks like a correct option. But if you plug in if in the sentence and you say, if the letter arrive in your absence, would you like me to forward it to you? And let's see, here the first issue that I saw is the subject verb. Over here, arrive is when a verb does not have S, it becomes plural, correct? So here, if we put if over here as an answer, if the letter arrive in your absence, it doesn't make sense. It should have been if the letter arrives in your absence, would you like me to forward it to you? Correct? So it cannot be if. So now we're left with could, should and might. And here the correct answer is should. Okay? And you might be thinking, then why is the verb here still without? Okay, so Papiya says infinity percent you thought it was A. So we just went over why A is not the correct answer, because if I'd written if over here, if the letter, it should have been arrives in your absence, okay? But in our question we have arrive, okay? And one thing that we know about modals, is after modals, the verb, any modal, right now I'm taking should, after that the verb will always be in its base form. Okay? So if I say he studies in the morning, then I'm saying he studies. So my subject and verb are agreeing. But if I'm giving a suggestion, I'll say he should study in the morning. I'm not saying he should studies in the morning. I'm saying he should study in the morning. So every time after a modal, forget about the subject verb agreement. We are going to use the base form of the verb. And here, since we have the base form of the verb, we can easily see that our answer is should. And this is just a formal way of forming a conditional sentence, okay? So should the letter arrive in your absence, would you like me to forward it to you? This is a formal way of talking. And so it's not D, Aditi, because this is a conditional sentence. And I understand that, this was not in your syllabus, but you can understand that here there is, if something happens, then I will do this. That's the kind of sentence that we have here. And might is talking about might the letter arrive in your absence. Over here there is a double level of uncertainty. Might the letter arrive in your absence? Would you like me to forward it to you? That doesn't make sense. Should it arrive? So if it has arrived, what would you like me to do? That is the thing. So in this sentence, we already have some uncertainty. We don't know if it will arrive or not. But if it arrives, then I will do this. If we put might, then in this sentence also we are being uncertain. Might it arrive? That doesn't make sense, right? So we are going in with the assumption that if this happens, then I will do this. So should the letter arrive, would you like me to forward it to you? Okay. So here the reason why we are using a modal verb, Yashart, is because we don't have any other option. So we have if over here in the options, but we can get rid of if because we just talked about how it doesn't match with the verb in the sentence. Okay. So the rest of the options are all modals. So that is why we only need to use a modal. You plugged if in and you realize that it cannot be correct because it doesn't agree with this verb over here. So we are going with the best option that we have, which is one of these modals, which is should. Okay. So yes, this required a little bit of knowledge of conditionals, but even then, if you applied your previous knowledge of everything that you know, you could have tackled this question. If not, you could have skipped this question. Whatever you did, now I hope it is clear. So if you ever come across a question like this, now you will know what to do. Okay. Let's move on. Now here again, if he came late, he blank be punished. Okay. So again, same logic. If something happens, then what will happen? So if he came late, he will, shall, should, would. I think the answer should be would because it matches with the tense. If he came late, he would be punished. Okay. All right. Now, by the time we reach the school bell, blank. Here, and we had discussed this in the grammar portion before also, every time you see the word by, you can assume that an action is completed. Okay. So, in this case, by the time we reach the school bell, blank. So, an action is supposed to be completed in this blank. So, we can eliminate all the ing options. Correct? So we are left with B and C, B and D, because we are eliminating A and C. So will have rung, would have rung. In this case, just think about it this way. By the time we reach the school bell, blank. So supposing it's 4:30. Okay, you are reaching at 5 o'clock and the school bell rings at 4:45. So by the time you reach, the school bell would have already rung. So the ringing of the school bell becomes a past action, correct? So by the time you reach, the ringing of the bell becomes a past action. That's why we will go with would have rung. Okay? D is a correct answer. Okay. Now, 3 months ago, I blank a student of this school. Here, what is our most appropriate answer? 3 months ago, I was a student of this school. Okay? Because we are talking about a simple action in the past. There is no mention of, for how long I was a student of the school. There's no mention of duration. It's a very simple sentence saying in the past this was the case. So 3 months ago, I was a student of this school. Okay? All right. Now we have reached the writing portion. So that was grammar, went by fairly quickly. I understand that you could have gotten thrown off in a couple of questions. Some of you might have gotten the answer, some of you might not have, but whatever it is, I hope that it is cleared out now. Okay. Writing. So we all remember the scenario, whatever happened, there was a motor vehicle workshop and it was causing problems in the neighborhood. Residents were having issues and you were Arun, I believe, and you were going to write a letter for general public awareness also, so that public can also see what is happening. So the letter will be addressed to, because you want to spread this information, correct? So you will address it to the editor of a local newspaper. That is the way public will be able to read it. Okay, so that makes D our correct answer. Straightforward? Great. Good, Shreya and Divya. Okay, now the subject of the letter should be problems caused to pedestrians, inconvenience caused by the next door workshop, insanitary conditions at the colony gate, a health hazard. Now, while all of these issues are addressed, what is the entire situation about? The entire situation as a whole is about the inconvenience caused by a workshop in the area, correct? So that is our most specific option, and that is what all the other options are also building upon. Okay, so it is a health hazard, there are insanitary conditions, and problems are caused to pedestrians because there is a workshop. So we can say that B is our correct answer, which most of you got. Some are saying A it must be. So it's not just problems caused to pedestrians. Who are pedestrians? People who are on foot, people who are walking. So it's not A, because it's not just about problems caused to the pedestrians. There are other problems also, noise, pollution, correct? It's not just people who are walking who are facing an inconvenience. While that is also one of the problems that is happening, that is not what the entire thing is about, okay? So inconvenience caused by the next door workshop can be a correct answer. Okay, now next. Arun decides to write this letter as. Straightforward. B, a matter of social concern. Okay, why? Because he wants, the public is being affected and he wants this to become a thing of public awareness. It's not just for him, it's not a personal problem with the owner. Okay, he doesn't, there's no question of him contesting in elections. And he might be very health conscious, but he wants to help everybody. So it's a matter of social concern. Okay, sure, great. Next, he will arrange the contents of the letter in this way. Now this, I feel, is a little ambiguous, because you can choose to arrange the contents of the letter in many different ways, okay? So, but there's only one correct answer. And so what did I say? When you feel like there are two correct answers, you need to try and get to the most correct answer, which all of you are saying is B, and that is correct. And first of all, we can eliminate a lot of options by simply seeing that we should first talk about the location, and last thing that we do is we should request action. Okay, so F should come first, B should come last. By this, we can eliminate the options that do not have this. And that leaves us with two options, in that we can analyze, the level of the gravity of the situation and the level of importance of all of these things and the sequence that was perhaps followed in the scenario. And then from that, we can get to B as our most appropriate answer. Okay? Great. Now, what kind of action would Arun suggest? Okay, Arun is raising this issue as a matter of public awareness and it's causing problems. So he's not at authority to impose a fine. Okay, he's not at authority to ask for a notice, and he doesn't have the authority to request for periodic visits. All of this is not something Arun can do. What can Arun do? He can ask for the workshop to be shifted because it's causing a problem in his residential area. Okay, so in terms of the authority that Arun has, this is the best suggestion that he can give, that please shift the workshop. And this fixes all the problems also. Okay, because if health inspectors giving periodic visits, then still there is still a workshop right there, right? So that doesn't solve all our problems. If you impose a fine, after paying the fine, if the workshop still continues, that doesn't solve all our problems. And notice on lack of cleanliness to be issued, then even if they maintain cleanliness, noise won't go away. There are a bunch of other issues also. So the best possible option for us is to have it shifted. Okay, so that is what Arun would suggest. Okay, Sheetal, is that clear? Even if the health inspector comes, you can still assume that noise will be there. Perhaps there are chemicals being used, smell will be there. There can be issues, correct? So workshop to be shifted seems like our best option. Okay, and the correct closing of the letter should be here. Very easy. It should be option C. Okay. Sheetal is saying that, ma'am, tell me, factory causing pollution, then we will ask the authorities to move the factory. So that is the option we chose. That is the option we chose. There's only one option that says workshop to be shifted. None of the other options says that you can shift the workshop. Correct? So that is why we went with the option that asked the workshop to be moved. Okay? All right. Now we can move on to the next section, that is literature. So I felt that in this set, literature was quite straightforward, not very ambiguous, some problems here and there. Okay? Let's see. Maddie was afraid of Peggy, as much fun-loving as Peggy, a kind soul and poor, in love with Wanda. Out of all of these, from the story directly we can say she was a kind soul and poor. Right? No doubts over there? C. Great. Okay, next. Maddie was sympathetic towards Wanda. Maddie didn't like Peggy. So, what A is true and B is false. So let's see, let's look at both the options. Maddie was sympathetic towards Wanda. Correct. She was. Maddie didn't like Peggy. That is not true. Maddie was Peggy's best friend. Okay, so we don't even have to see the other options. A is true and B is false. Okay. Next. Maddie joined Peggy in making fun of Wanda. Maddie's parents were poor. Here, A is the cause and B is the effect. B is the cause and A is the effect. Both are contradictory. A shows the cruel nature of Maddie. So, what does it mean for something to be contradictory? It means that it doesn't make sense. It's the opposite. Both things are opposite. So, Maddie joined Peggy in making fun of Wanda. They used to make fun of Wanda because she wore the same dress every day. So Maddie was a part of making fun of Wanda, but Maddie was also poor. Maddie also came from a poor household. So as someone who came from a poor household, she still made fun of someone else for being poor. So that didn't make sense together, right? So both are contradictory. Yes, there we go. So Boggins Heights is significant in the story as it's a poor neighborhood. We keep referring to it in the context of Wanda living in Boggins Heights, and we know that she is from a poor family. So, it is a poor neighborhood. Okay? Next, Maddie was So out of all of this, we've already seen in the previous questions also that she was sympathetic. She later started feeling that, perhaps we shouldn't be making fun of Wanda. I am also poor. She had these feelings later in the story and she was poor. So we can go with option C, poor and sympathetic. Okay. Now we've come to a different story. Lencho wrote the second letter as he was unhappy, curious, hopeful, thoughtful, confident. So when he was writing the second letter, why did he write the second letter? Because he did not get all his money. So he was hopeful he will get all his money. So we know that hopeful is correct. He was also confident that God will send all the remaining money. So we can say he was confident. And he was angry that because he thought that the people at the post office stole the remaining amount. So he was angry and unhappy that they stole. He was not curious, he was not thoughtful. So we know ACE, ACE is the correct answer. There we go. Okay? Great. All right. The postmaster opened the letter expecting it to be full of thanks to God, show his happiness, be full of anguish for getting less money, be accusing God for being miserly. Okay? So the postmaster opened the letter. They all figured that, if we collect all this money and give it to Lencho, he will get very, very happy. So they did a good thing according to them. And so when they expected Lencho to open the letter, they thought he would be full of thanks to God and he would be very, very happy. But they did not know about Lencho's unwavering faith in God, correct? So they did not expect the reaction that he gave. But they, before that happened, what did they expect? They expected him to be full of thanks and show his happiness. So that makes B the correct answer. Okay? All right. On reading the letter, the postmaster was... So we just discussed in the previous questions that they thought he would be very happy. They thought that he would be full of thanks. But Lencho was, in fact, he knew God would send him money. He had no doubts about that. He was very, very confident that he would get the money. So the reaction that Lencho gave surprised the postmaster. So that makes A the correct answer. So what does dismayed mean? Dismayed means distressed or unhappy. So the postmaster was not unhappy. He was not pleased or puzzled. He was just surprised at Lencho's reaction. Okay? There we go. The post office employees are a bunch of crooks. The statement is ironic. Why so? We just discussed, okay, maybe we hadn't discussed. Ironic, what does ironic mean? That when something opposite to your expectations happens. So when you are expecting something to happen and the opposite of that ends up happening, then it's ironic. So all the employees thought that Lencho would be very, very happy upon receiving the money. But Lencho in turn said that the employees of the post office stole his money. So they were very surprised at his reaction. So that makes this statement ironic. Okay? Yes, contrasting, but what is contrasting in here? What kind of says that it was contrasting? The last option, ironic. Okay. Find the suitable word from the extract to complete the following. Sanctioned is to approved. What demanded is to... So here sanctioned means approved. So what are we looking for? We're looking for a synonym of demanded. And so it's very straightforward. What is the answer? Asked. Option D. Okay? When you're demanding something, you're asking for something. Great. All right. Now, study the following statements. The villagers don't feel happy that the tiger is caged. We feel sad that the tiger is caged. The tiger is happy that he doesn't have to hunt for his food. So from all of these sentences, we can see that option B is our correct answer. B is right. We feel sad that the tiger is caged. And A is wrong. The villagers don't feel happy that the tiger is caged. Straightforward enough? Okay, a lot of you said B. Nobody has a doubt? Okay, good. So we should protect the tiger as they are part of the environment. That is one reason to protect tigers, correct? They're a part of our environment, they're part of this world, and that is why they need to be protected. Answer D. Next, the tiger terrorizes the villagers as... Which of these is the correct answer? Tell me. You all have been giving correct answers so far. So quickly tell me the correct answer for this. Option C. There we go. Shreya, Ishat, Charvi. Great. Good job. As they have cleared his habitat. Okay. A tiger in the zoo ignoring visitors is an example of. So we just discussed what ironic means. Okay? So you can apply that knowledge to this question. A lot of you were very, very worried about poetic devices, but this is perhaps the only question that came on poetic devices. So if you got confused in this question, then we can brush up on poetic devices, no worries. But this requires a very basic understanding, not a very deep understanding. So metaphor and simile, we know both are to do with comparison. Okay? Metaphor and simile are to do with comparison, so that's out of the question. Personification is also out of the question because personification is giving human qualities to something inanimate. Okay? And so what a tiger in the zoo ignoring visitors. So we talk about how in the wild, if a tiger encounters a person, the first instinct of the tiger is to attack. Correct? So a tiger ignoring the visitors in the zoo becomes ironic because that's not the behavior you expect from a tiger. So C will become our correct answer, irony. And if you left this, that's okay. You should just have a very basic understanding of what these poetic devices mean. Metaphor and simile are used for comparison. Simile uses like and as, metaphor does not. And personification is giving human qualities. Okay. So the tiger is reacting to his imprisonment in the zoo by... What was he doing in the previous question? Ignoring the visitors, right? So tiger is going against its instincts and ignoring the visitors. So this from the previous question itself has been carried forward and ignoring visitors. So Pratyush, human qualities, it means, okay, so even animals express, correct? So any kind of emotion that is being expressed, a tiger can ignore. Your dog can ignore you, your cat can ignore you. Personification would be more in terms of, you're talking about things having emotions or, showing human-like qualities, which is something that doesn't happen, but we use it for poetic effect. Okay? Alright, so here our correct answer is ignoring visitors. The greatest problem for the invisible man was that... What happened in the story? Footprints without feet. It was winter time in London. It gets very, very, very cold. So without clothes, he was feeling cold. That makes D the correct answer. Okay, next. He could escape from the boys as... So first, why did the boys notice him? Because they could see his footprints, muddy footprints, okay? And so he could escape from the boys because he went along a street where there was no mud. Okay? That makes D our correct answer. Easy? Yes, all of you got it. And it was stupid on his part to come out on a winter night. He was not completely stupid though. So which of these statements is correct? I think both these statements are correct. It was stupid on his part to come out on a winter night. He was not completely stupid though. Correct? He came out without clothes on a winter night, but he had no other choice. So we can say that both A and B are right. And he was also a genius scientist who figured out how to become invisible. So option C is our correct answer. Great. Okay. After getting rid of the boys, the invisible man felt relieved, partly relieved, anguished, comfortable. So one of his problems got solved. He was being followed. So getting rid of the boys, the boys could see his footprints. So getting rid of the boys made him relieved, correct, but that was not the end of his problems. He still had more problems. The biggest being he was feeling very, very cold. He was without clothes on a winter night, feeling very cold. So he was only partly relieved because only a part of his problem was solved. So B is our correct answer. Great. Okay. The phrase slip into means the same as enter quietly. B. Here we had talked about, you remember we talked about context. So a lot of word meanings come from context. So in this sense, the phrase slip into, he slipped into the room and nobody noticed. A sentence like that, that it would mean entering quietly. Literally slipping into something can also mean falling into something, but we need to know the context in which the phrase is being said, which makes B the correct answer. Okay? So, has given my heart a change of mood. These two lines are from Dust of Snow. It's given to you in brackets. So, the poet's mood has changed according to the two lines that are given to us. And from the poem, we know that initially the poet was not happy, but then the poet had a change of mood. So, that makes the poet happy. So, C is our correct answer. Okay? Great. So Divya, nowhere does it say in the poem that that the poet started appreciating nature. Okay, the poet just said that these particular things just changed my mood. So the poet did not suddenly say, wow, look how beautiful nature is. Poet just said that I was having a bad day, something happened, my day became better and I became happy. So that makes C the correct answer and not A. All right. Paper has more patience than people. This is from Anne Frank. So, which of the following is not true? One can write anything on paper. People have good ears for listening. One can write one's diary even at night, and one may express one's anger on paper. So, paper has more patience than people. What does that mean? Does it mean one can write anything on paper? Yes, it does. Does it mean one can write one's diary even at night? Yes, because paper is very patient according to Anne Frank, and one may express one's anger on paper. Okay, that's also true. People have good ears for listening. This doesn't seem to be true. Why? Because Anne Frank is saying paper has more patience than people. So, writing on paper, it seems, is more fruitful than talking to people, because people might lose their patience, people might not listen to everything you say, and people will talk back. Okay? So, which of the following is not true? B is not true. Okay? Great. Next. In life, every man has twin obligations. This is Nelson Mandela saying this. So, twin means two. You can say twin means two. And And what are the twin obligations? So this is directly from what Nelson Mandela said, first to family and then to country. So which option has that? Option B has that, first to his family and second to his country. So this is directly from the text. No confusion there. Great. He had in fact seen his older brother catch his first herring and devour it. This is from the first flight. So the seagull is looking at his brother and catching its prey and eating it. Okay, so how did he feel? He, as in the seagull, seagull felt angry, greedy, jealous, hungry. So we know for a fact that the seagull was hungry, correct? Because it wasn't able to catch its food, and that's what the entire story is about, the seagull overcoming his fear and trying to fly and catch its own food. So the seagull was definitely hungry, and the seagull was also jealous, looking at his older brother devour. Devour means just completely go at it and eat the herring. Okay, so our correct answer will be C and D. That gets us to option C. Okay, great. Mr. Keesing was annoyed with Anne as, so we know Mr. Keesing was Anne's maths teacher and was annoyed with Anne because she kept, like all of you, talking in class. Okay, so she was very talkative. So that makes D the correct answer. Okay, great. The loss of a possession should make one feel. This is from the Ball poem. So the entire poem is about accepting loss, learning from it. So it makes us more responsible. It shouldn't make us angry, not sad. It doesn't make us careless. It makes us responsible. So B is our correct answer. And the black aeroplane is a or an blank story. So here our most appropriate option is mystery, because at the end of it, who knew who was flying the plane? Nobody found out, correct? According to the control room, there was only one plane in the sky. So it's a mystery story. Great. So for Tricky's present condition, this is triumph of surgery, Tricky. Tricky's present condition, so it says both Mrs. Pumphrey and Tricky are to blame, only Tricky is to blame. So Tricky kept on eating, and Mrs. Pumphrey kept on feeding Tricky. Okay, that is why Tricky became very fat and inactive. So we can say that give me the answer, come on. Both Mrs. Pumphrey and Tricky are to blame. Great. Yashat, Samya, great. So a lot of you posting answers twice. So I keep thinking that so many of you gave the correct answer, but it's just Yashat giving the correct answer many times. Okay, no, a lot of others also gave the correct answer. Great. So A is right and B is wrong. So we can't just blame Tricky because Mrs. Pumphrey also kept feeding Tricky. Okay? Great. Alright. It was quite pleasant working for Anil as, this is the thief's story. So we all know that Anil was very chill and he never complained. So that makes B our correct answer. But some of you are saying C and D. Okay, he was a very simple person and he could be easily fooled. So we know for a fact that A is wrong. He was not quite rich. In fact, he himself struggled a little bit for money, and every time he got it, he would just spend it all. So that makes A incorrect, but you're getting confused between B, C and D. So what was the reason specifically why it would be pleasant for somebody who's helping Anil at his house? Okay, think about it this way. Read the question. It was quite pleasant working for Anil as... Now if you're working for someone, It doesn't matter if they're a simple person. They might still scream and shout at you, or they might still ask you to do a lot of work, or they might still be very strict with you. And, you know, he could be easily fooled can come into the picture when you think about, you know, how when Hari Singh was trying to steal from Anil. But when it comes to just working for someone, what is the best thing? That they don't complain too much, okay? So from that perspective, the most applicable answer here would be B, that he never complained. Even if Hari Singh did something that he perhaps should not have done, Anil did not complain about it, okay? And we know that Anil could not really be very easily fooled. In fact, at the end of the story, you know, he did figure out that, you know, Hari Singh had stolen the money. He just chose to not do anything about it because he returned it. So the reason why it was pleasant working for Anil was because he never really complained about anything. Even the kind of food that Hari Singh made, he did not complain about it. Okay? That's okay, Samya, if you get a wrong answer. That's fine. Okay. Now, Griffin became a homeless wanderer because he, now again we are going back to footprints without feet. He became a homeless wanderer because he was an eccentric scientist. He was an eccentric scientist, but that is not the reason why he was homeless. He was very greedy. No, we don't know that he was very greedy. Had to go without clothes. He chose to go without clothes because if he wore clothes, he wouldn't be invisible anymore. So that leaves us with option D. Had set fire to his landlord's house. He did not like his landlord set fire to his house, so he had to leave his house. So D is our correct answer. Great. Yasharth got it twice. Akshat, Vishaka, Shivam. Nice. Okay. So that is the end of the paper. Now that went by really fast, I think. But I can see where you all had some issues, and it's okay. Sometimes a tricky paper comes along and you don't have to feel demotivated because of it. I think a lot of you still gave me all the correct answers. So I'm pretty sure all of you did fairly well in your exam. Okay, and like we said, there's always a silver lining. You're getting full marks for your reading comprehension passage. Okay? All right. So we will start everything else. Right now you just got done with your exam, so don't worry, feel a little relaxed. And for all of you who want the second set, we are discussing that tomorrow. Okay? All right. So Ashika got 40 on 40. That's amazing. Divya, it's okay if you got 3 questions wrong. That's not a huge amount. It's okay. We all make silly mistakes. Sometimes it doesn't click in our brain, but as long as you learn from your mistakes and you figure out where you went wrong, no issues. That you still got a very good score, even if you got 3 questions wrong. Okay? Great. So tomorrow 5. Okay, so no, the timing of this has changed. This would be 6 to 7, I believe. So not 5 to 6, 6 to 7. And we will be discussing the next set, okay? See you tomorrow. And sorry, we had a lot to cover. So I'm sorry if I missed out on anything. I will get back to you. I will go back. I'll refer to the comments. And if I missed out any explanation, we can take care of it tomorrow, okay? So Samya, you will be getting full marks for your first RC. So you're not getting bonus marks. According to the circular from Cbse, you are getting full marks for your RC, okay? I see questions saying that I missed, you want explanation for question number 30. Now, okay, so we have run out of time today, so I also don't remember what question number 30 was. So I will get back to you tomorrow on that, okay? So I have it here in my head, question number 30. I'll go back and check what that question was and we'll get to it tomorrow, okay? All right, see you tomorrow. Thank you so much, and don't worry, This happens, all right? Like, you know, there are ups and downs in life. So if your paper wasn't the best, that's okay. There's a lot more to come. You tried your best. That's what matters the most, okay? So see you tomorrow. And I know, Charvi, they didn't have 13th and 14th questions didn't actually have the questions, but then you could have sort of assumed what they wanted looking at the options, right? So that's okay. I know things like this during the exam can really, you know, maybe make you go a little haywire, but that's okay. These are experiences that will teach you how to do better next time, okay? And we shouldn't panic. So even if something like this happens in the exam, don't panic. Okay, there's always an explanation for everything, and you can get to it with a cool and composed mind. So question number 30, I believe I saw, so I will get back to you on that tomorrow. Rest is all covered. If you have any other questions, we can quickly cover it tomorrow as well, okay? So see you, good evening, have a great evening ahead, and bye-bye, see you tomorrow.